In the lush and peaceful land of Abara Kingdom, there lived a fearless hunter named Akubudike. Known across villages for his skill in the forest and his strength in battle, Akubudike had never feared man nor beast. But for all his might, his heart was captured by the gentlest of souls, Ugama, the only daughter of a respected elder in Abara. Ugama was beauty wrapped in grace. Her voice was like the sound of early rain, and her smile softened even the toughest of hearts. She was loved by her people, but it was Akubudike who won hers. Their love blossomed like the hibiscus in spring. Songs were sung on the day of their wedding, and villagers danced from dawn till dusk. Akubudike couldn't take his eyes off Ugama, not even for a moment, and Ugama, with all her heart, respected and adored the man she had chosen to walk life's path with. A few months into their joyful marriage, Ugama discovered she was with child. Akubudike lifted her off her feet the day she told him, laughing, crying, and promising the gods he would give her the world. Together they waited eagerly. When the day came, a beautiful baby girl was born. They named her Adana, meaning father's daughter. And truly, she carried the light of both her parents, her mother's beauty and her father's courage. Life seemed perfect, but fate, as it often does, turned cruel. One afternoon, while Akubudike was deep in the forest hunting for bushmeat, Ugama sat behind their home, laughing and playing with little Adana, who was barely 2 years old. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle, and the world felt safe. Then came the growl. Out of the nearby bush emerged a leopard, large and wild-eyed. It must have wandered in from the deep forest, hungry and lost. Ugama's heart stopped, but she did not hesitate. She stood, shielding Adana with her body. With bare hands and the strength only a mother knows, she tried to fight off the beast. She screamed, bit, kicked, but the leopard was relentless. By the time help arrived, Ugama was gone, her lifeless body covering her daughter. But Adana was alive, untouched. When Akubudike returned and saw the scene, the blood, the silence, the look in his daughter's eyes, he fell to his knees and wept like a child. His cry echoed through the hills. His heart, once full of joy, cracked open with sorrow. He buried Ugama with his own hands. At her grave he swore a vow, "As long as I breathe, no leopard shall know peace in this land. I will avenge you, my love. One by one I will bring their heads to our home." And so he began his hunt for vengeance. Akubudike no longer hunted for food. He hunted for leopards. He tracked them through thick jungles, deep caves, and dangerous cliffs. Every time he slew one, he cut off its head and carried it home. He built a great chamber beside his house, a palace of fangs, where he placed each leopard's skull, neatly cleaned, with Ugama's name carved beside it. The villagers watched in awe, some in fear. Akubudike had become a legend, a man feared by even the wildest beasts. But behind the strength was a man who missed his wife every waking moment. Years passed. Adana grew into a stunning young woman. Her beauty was like her mother's, but she carried the fierce strength of her father. She was wise, respectful, and brave, the pride of Abara. Princes came from distant lands to ask for her hand, but she turned them all away, until one day a noble prince from Ubaha Kingdom visited Abara. His name was Chimamanda, and his words were kind, his heart honest. He did not try to impress her with gold or gifts, only with truth and tenderness. And for the first time, Adana smiled like her mother used to. When she told her father she wished to marry Chimamanda, Akubudike remained silent for a long time. Then he walked to the Palace of Fangs, stood before Ugama's favorite leopard skull, and spoke softly. "Your daughter has found love, Ugama. Like you found me. I pray this one stays longer." On the day of the wedding, the whole of Abara danced once more. Adana, dressed in royal beads and coral, looked just like her mother on her wedding day. Akubudike walked her down the path, his strong hand holding hers gently. As she was joined with her prince, he smiled, the first real smile he had smiled in years. That night, he sat behind his house alone, looking up at the stars. He took out Ugama's old comb, held it to his chest, and whispered, "I kept my vow, my love. And now, our daughter begins a new chapter. Thank you for giving me a reason to live, even after you left." And for a brief moment, the wind seemed to carry the scent of Ugama's favorite flowers, as if her spirit, still watching, had come to say goodbye. The drums of Abara had barely stopped echoing when Adana, daughter of the legendary hunter Akubudike and the late Ugama, crossed the great river into Ubaha Kingdom. Not as a wanderer, but as a bride. She had been raised among trees, in the scent of rain on red soil, in a home where her father taught her courage, and her mother's memory taught her compassion. She never imagined herself inside a palace of marble floors, golden gates, and servants who whispered in corners. But here she was, the bride of a prince, now a stranger in royal land. Her husband, Prince Chimamanda, was kind. He had fallen in love with her, not for her beauty, though that too could quiet a room, but for the way she stood at her father's side during leopard hunts, how she buried her mother with honor, and how she held her head high even in mourning. He had seen her spirit before her smile. Ubaha was beautiful, yes, but it was different. The people spoke softly. The palace corridors were cold. And at the center of it all stood Queen Mother Ezeoma, Chimamanda's mother, regal, stern, and suspicious of this bush girl from Abara. A hunter's daughter cannot rule a kingdom, she had once said. Love does not crown queens. Lineage does. Adana heard the whispers. She felt the eyes that watched her every move, every word, every misstep. But she remembered her father's voice. "Stand like the tree, my daughter. The wind may bend it, but it never breaks." So she did not argue. She observed. She learned. She walked softly through marble halls, but held thunder in her heart. Seasons passed. And with the passing of moons came the birth of her first child, a boy with his father's gentle eyes and her mother's dimples. They named him Ikenna, meaning father's strength. When Chimamanda held the child, he whispered, "He carries 3 kingdoms in his blood, yours, mine, and the one your parents built in spirit." Adana would sit for hours, nursing her child beneath the palace pillars, telling him stories of Ugama, his grandmother, the woman who fought off a leopard with bare hands. She sang to him lullabies from Abara, and every now and then she could swear the wind carried her mother's scent, palm oil, hibiscus, and warmth. But peace, as always, is brief. A great sickness spread across the outer villages of Ubaha. Fever, boils, and breathlessness swept through towns like wildfire. The court shut the gates. Nobles locked their doors. Adana could not. She remembered what death looked like, remembered the way her mother had been still, the way her father had wailed. She would not sit idle. So she left the palace, carrying Ikenna on her back, entered the sick villages with nothing but her knowledge of herbs and heart. She boiled udara bark, applied crushed bitter leaf, and steamed alligator pepper with lemon. She cleaned wounds, held the dying, and wept with widows. And then, slowly, the fever began to retreat. The people of Ubaha did not forget. They began to call her Nwomwa, the spirit woman, not out of fear, but reverence. Even Queen Mother Ezeoma, once cold and distant, stood beside her one day with tears in her eyes and said, "You are no longer the hunter's daughter. You are the healer of kings." Then came the letter. One quiet morning, as Adana nursed her second child beneath the mango tree, a rider came from Abara. Dust covered his face, sorrow in his eyes. Akubudike was dying. She left at once, her heart in her throat. Back home, the Palace of Fangs still stood. Skulls of leopards still lined the walls. But inside, on a mat of raffia, lay her father, aged, thin, but smiling. "My lioness," he whispered, reaching for her hand. "You've become more than I dreamed." Adana knelt beside him, placing her forehead on his chest. She wept like a girl again, not a queen, not a mother, but a daughter. For hours they spoke of Ugama, of old hunts, of her children. Akubudik held his grandson Ikenna in his arms before he passed, whispering a final vow. "Let the world remember your name. Burn like your mother. Stand like your father." She buried him beside Ugama under the great Iroko tree, placing his bow and Ugama's comb between them. And she whispered, "Rest now. I will carry the fire." Return to Ubaha. When she returned, the king welcomed her not just as his wife, but as the heart of the kingdom. She founded healing houses for women. She built schools where girls learned medicine and language, history and courage. She walked freely in her wrapper, with no shame of her roots, and always with a leopard tooth on a chain around her neck. At festivals, when the royal dancers performed, they often ended with a song from Abara, honoring Ugama, and the people sang it loud. Queen Mother Ezeoma, now older, walked beside Adana in her garden and said, "Forgive me. I judged the soil you came from. I did not know it grew diamonds." Adana only smiled. "The soil made me. The fire shaped me. Legacy years later, Akenna, now a tall prince, sat by her feet. "Mother," he asked, "will I be as strong as grandfather?" She touched his chest gently. "Stronger, because you carry his fire and my love." Every year, Adana returned to Abara, not as a visitor, but as a daughter. She knelt before her parents' grave, laid flowers of flame-red hibiscus, and said, "I loved, I fought, I healed, you gave me life. I gave it meaning." And the wind, always faithful, whispered back, "We are proud."